All right, so good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from, everyone. My name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. If you're joining us for the first time, and I know we do have a bunch live and on YouTube doing so, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. So today is very exciting. All month long, we are highlighting space. That is our main focus. We've got some NASA engineers, some astronauts, some CSA personnel. It's been a really great time. But today we're changing gears a little bit, and we're highlighting one of our longest lasting, coolest partnerships with Ripley's Aquarium of Canada. So over the last 2 years, we have done sessions on every element of the aquarium. We've highlighted all their incredible animals, and you can check all those out on our YouTube channel. But today, we're diving in with one of my favorite animals in one of my favorite places. So Janat is an educator at Ripley's Aquarium, and he is going to walk us through the sawfish. So World Sawfish Day was just a few days ago. We're celebrating that today. They're one of the most iconic and amazing animals at the aquarium. They're very endangered. We're going to learn a lot more about them and dive in at the Dangerous Lagoon, the largest tank at Ripley's. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining us today, Janat, and take us away.
Awesome, Jesse. Thank you for that awesome introduction. All right, so now you guys know my name is Janat, and I'm an educator here at the aquarium. I also have Katie helping me out. She's providing this awesome view inside the tunnel. So just like you said, we're at our Dangerous Lagoon exhibit. This is the largest exhibit in the aquarium. It's actually home to most of our largest animals, and it houses roughly 3 million liters of salt water. So it's a really, really big tank. Now, another cool feature about this tank is that it has this cool underwater tunnel, which you're seeing the view from right now. It actually takes you throughout the entire exhibit, and it actually lets you get more up close with the animals. Now, I'm actually at the top right here. I'm joined with some aquarists here, or aquarium biologists. They're actually going to be help feeding the sawfish today. So, like I said, Dangerous Lagoon is home to a lot of cool animals. We have 3 species of sharks in here, which I'll talk about in a bit. We have some turtles in here. We have a stingray in here. And then we have our focus animal, the sawfish. So there are 5 species of sawfish in the world. We're very fortunate to have actually one of them, and they're called the green sawfish. So not only are we fortunate to have a fish, we're very lucky we have 2 of them actually. We have a male and a female. The female is the largest animal in the aquarium. She's about 14 feet long. And then we have the male, which is about 11 feet long. So he's a little bit smaller. Now, all these sawfishes in the world are actually critically endangered or endangered. So the green sawfish is actually critically endangered. This is due to overfishing or getting entangled in fishing gear or fishing nets. So, like Jesse said, International Sawfish Day is coming up. It's actually on Saturday. Saturday, October 17th is actually International Sawfish Day. So we're trying to raise some awareness about these cool animals. We want to make sure everyone gets to learn about them. We want you guys to take home what you learned here today, to spread the word, to raise awareness why we need to actually protect these really cool animals. Now, sawfish are actually found all in the Indo-Pacific region, so waters that surround Indonesia. They can also be found in waters surrounding northern Australia. For being really large animals, you actually normally find them in shallow water. So they don't go into water much deeper than 30 feet. So one of the most unique things about the sawfish is actually that really cool nose. So they actually have a nose. It's actually called a rostrum. I actually have one here. You're welcome to see. So this is what we call a rostrum. And what's really cool about it is it has all these cool looking spiky teeth to them. So these aren't actually teeth, they're actually modified scales. And if you look closely enough, let me see if I can get this into focus, you'll see these little pores or little black dots all along the rostrum. And what these are receptors. So this actually helps them find their food. So sawfish come from a really cool, unique family. They're actually closely related to stingrays and sharks. The family, they're from elasmobranchs. Now, if you don't know what elasmobranchs means, it means that their bodies are made up of cartilage. So for everyone who's watching, if you just wiggle your nose real quick or wiggle your ears, that flexible material is what we call cartilage. So their bodies are made up entirely of it. So one thing that happens here in the aquarium is a lot of people actually often mistake our sawfish for saw sharks. But they're called sawfish and they're actually more closely related to stingrays. This is actually very evident if you look at their bottoms. So they have very flat bottoms. They have a small mouth that's actually underneath them, and they have their gills, which is underneath them as well. So that's very similar to stingrays. Now, they do have flat teeth, so they mostly eat shellfish and clams, and pretty much anything else they'll find on the ocean floor. So pretty much they'll find anything on the ocean floor, and they use this really cool rostrum that I pointed out earlier to actually help them hunt. So if a fish or a small fish is swimming by, what they'll do is they'll feel it with their rostrum, and they'll actually kind of lift it up and stun or impale prey. And this is how they use this cool looking teeth for it. Now, up here, we actually dim the lights, so you might notice that the lights are a little bit darker up here versus the other side. And we actually turned off the jets. So you can see some of the jets going on this side, all the way across the tank. But over here, we turned off the jets, and it actually acts as kind of a dinner bell for these animals. So they kind of know that they're going to be fed. It's pretty much their lunchtime or dinner time, so they'll come against this back wall right over here. When we feed the animals, we actually do something called target training. So you can see Dave over here is holding a pole, and that actually acts as the sawfish's target. Normally, he'll put a piece of fish on one end of the pole and stick it in the water. And so the sawfish actually know to come to the pole to get their food. So target training is kind of a form of enrichment, and that just means that we kind of give them a little task or some kind of environmental stimulus. And that's just to make sure that they're also keeping their minds busy and active while they're here in the aquarium. So the sawfish aren't the only animals that are target trained. The nurse sharks are actually target trained. So the guys you see right there, our sand tiger sharks are target trained, the groupers, the turtles, and even the octopus. Now, target training is actually really useful. It not only lets the animals get comfortable approaching us, but if we ever need to do any kind of vet check or we want to make sure the animals are healthy and okay, we can just pop the target in the water, and they're quite comfortable just approaching to us. Now, this tank alone eats a lot of food. So in about a week, we go through 800 pounds of seafood in about 1 week. Most of that actually goes into this tank. So we try to aim to feed a lot of the animals about 2 to 3% of their body weight. That's just so they're healthy. And so we actually feed a sawfish roughly that percentage of their body weight. And so the sawfish usually eat mackerel, bonito, squid, and bluefish. And today, if we actually see what they're eating, it looks like they're getting some bonito and mackerel. So our sawfish actually have some favorite foods. The female actually really likes her bonito fillet, so that's one of her more preferred food. The male actually likes whole mackerel, so that's a really cool thing about them. Now, I can't be up here and not talk about the other animals, so let me mention some of the cool animals that also live in here. So I mentioned the sharks that you'll see. We have 3 species of sharks. We have the sand tiger sharks, so the big shark you see kind of in the background right now. We have the smaller zipping sharks called the sand bar sharks. They're very fast, they're a little bit small, and you always see them swimming around. And then lastly, we have the nurse sharks. So the sharks that are kind of on my screen, you'll see them swimming by the tube. What's really cool about the nurse sharks is that they actually are also target fed, like I mentioned earlier, but they have a really cool target. It's actually a Superman logo. So we have a large disc which has a Superman symbol on it, and they've actually been practiced to actually sit on the target before they get fed. So that's really cool about them. We also have turtles in here. You might see one turtle zipping around. The other turtles might be getting fed at the moment. 2 turtles in here, Spot and Chewy. Spot obviously gets her name from that spot on her neck. And Chewy actually gets her name because she loves to chew on everything. So they're very friendly animals. They love to mess around with the divers. We have a 1 stingray in here. So Noah's actually over here feeding our 1 rough-tailed stingray, and you can kind of see him swimming along the pipe right over here. So we have a stingray in this tank as well. And then we have a lot of fish in here. We have over 6,000 individual fish in here, all the way from tarpon, so the big silvery fish you might see hovering at the top of the water, to the smaller porkfish, gunfish, and even some groupers in here. Now, to make sure that everyone's eating, we actually have 2 of our aquarists kind of standing on the corners, throwing out small pieces of fish. So if you see over here, you might see someone throwing some fish over the edge. If I go over here, you can see my friend Cam over here what they're doing is they're actually throwing small chopped up bits of fish, and that actually distracts all of them away from this back wall. So what they'll do is just throw it in, and you'll see the fish go wild by jumping in and trying to eat all that fish. And that opens up this entire area back here. And that's okay for the sharks to come and for the sawfish to come to get their food. Now you'll see the sharks kind of hover by here sometime, but they know it's not their feeding time. They actually ate yesterday, so they're not gonna really come for the food. The sharks actually get fed on a pretty solid routine of Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so they're not gonna be fed at the moment. So they'll just kind of hover by and swim. Now, one of the cooler things about this place is that when we actually feed the animals, we're able to tell them apart. So normally our aquarists are actually up here. They can actually tell each of the sharks apart. We do have 10 sand tiger sharks in here, and they can tell every single individual apart. It can be easy as looking at the markings on them. So we have a shark called Hawaii who has these island markings on him, like the Hawaiian Islands. We have a shark with a spot on its cheek called spot cheek. So it's very cool that we can actually tell these animals apart to make sure that they're eating. All right, Jesse, I don't think our sawfish is actually quite hungry today, so she might just be hanging out on the bottom. So we can actually jump to questions if you have any questions right now.
With live animals, you never know what's going to happen. That's half the fun.
Never know.
That was awesome, man. And Katie, thanks for all the amazing footage from underneath the Danish Lagoon. We have over 120 people joining us on YouTube from around the world, so welcome in. If we've got any full teachers, let me know where you're joining from. And please, let's keep the chat on YouTube to just questions from teachers. We'll make it a lot easier to find some great queries. But we're going to go to our live classes now. So you've got 3 classes joining us right now from across North America. I'm going to start with Miss Peltzer's class. They are coming in from Stirling in Ontario. So Miss Peltzer's group, come on in and ask a question. Just demute your mic. All our teachers can actually demute their microphones, and you're good to go. Thanks, guys.
Okay, we have one question from Stirling, Ontario, and Nella's going to ask.
Do you feed the sawfish at the exact same time every day?
Nice.
That's a really good question. Awesome. So yes, the sawfish actually do get offered food every single day at the same time. Like you saw today, sometimes they don't come up. That's actually up to them. But we do make sure we write down who's eating what and when. But yes, they are offered food every single day. Awesome question.
Yeah, fantastic, guys. Thanks so much. So let's go to Mr. Bree's class. They're joining us in Oakville, Ontario. Welcome in, guys, and ask away.
Hi, thank you very much. We have a question, and the question is, how much money does it take to feed the sawfish, and do the sawfish eat other fish?
Nice.
Nice. So how much money does it take to feed the sawfish, and do they eat other fish? So with this tank, all the animals are actually very well fed, so none of the animals actually eat each other. So that's one of the things we do to make sure that they're not actively hunting. My number one thing to say is that the sharks in here and the sawfish are actually very lazy. They're too well fed. When we feed them, we actually take the bones out of the fish. We cut the heads and tails. So we really spoil the animals, so they don't have a need to hunt or eat any of the other fish in here. So same thing with the sawfish. They don't really want to hunt any of the fish. They don't want to. They'd rather just wait and get basically a hand-fed platter right to them. To the question of the cost, I actually can't answer that question. I unfortunately don't know how much money actually gets spent into feeding the sawfish. I can manage just for the aquarium in total, it's definitely over a couple $100,000 just for seafood.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Jeanette. And it is expensive. One thing that we cover with zoos and aquariums a lot is that to have high quality seafood for that many animals is expensive. It's a big part of the operating budget, but it's a really exciting opportunity to highlight, some cool stuff going on at these places. And yeah, great question, guys. Sorry. Let's go to Miss Gibbs' class. Now, you guys came in a little bit after, so I'm going to bring it to you. Miss Gibbs' class is in Whitby. If you guys have a question for us, you're welcome to join. Demute your mic and ask. And if not, I've got a whole bunch on YouTube to share. So, Miss Gibb, are you around? We'll find out in a second. While we're waiting for you, Jeanette and Katie, I'm going to come back to Miss Gibbs in a second. Miss Burt wanted to ask, how are the sawfish and sharks getting along in the tank? Do they leave each other alone in the wild?
So yeah, so they're actually getting along really well. You can see them. You can see multiple sharks. They're just swimming by each other. Like I said, we do have 3 species of sharks in here, and they get along really well. No one's really biting each other. No one's getting in each other's way. Sometimes they might swim into each other accidentally, but they'll just swim the opposite way after that. So they do get along pretty well. In the wild, actually, most of these animals can be found in the same habitat. Dangerous Lagoon actually is supposed to mimic the Atlantic coast. So just off of Florida, for example. But unfortunately, you won't find too many of these animals close by each other. The open sea is a very vast place. Sand tiger sharks, you'll see them quite often, but you won't see sawfish too often near them. Sandbar sharks as well too. Because sharks are predators and they do eat a lot of animals, you won't see multiple predators in the same area too often, but you'll obviously see turtles where you might see sharks. You might see these fish where you might see the sharks, but sawfish and sharks, most likely you won't see them together.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jeanette. All right, I'm going to go back to our live classes, Ms. Peltzer, Mr. Bree's class in a second. Ms. Gibb, if you want to type in the chat bar if you're here and are listening and have any questions, please do. But I want to take this question from Ms. Wyatt in Kelowna, BC. More about what they use their saw for. Are they dangerous, and do they have any predators, Jeanette?
Oh, really good question. So this saw right here, they use it to find their food, basically. So like I said, it has a bunch of receptors. If you look closely enough, you can kind of see the pores on them. And so they have these receptors that help them find their prey. So if a fish is swimming by, they'll be able to lift it up and kind of whack it to stun and impale their prey. They can use it to defend themselves. So some of their natural predators when they're young would be like crocodiles and bull sharks. So that's something that would eat them when they're younger. But once they get to a decent size, maybe around 10, 11 feet, nothing's really going to bother them, especially with that really long rostrum of theirs. You can see our male, who did swim by earlier, he's quite a big size for being 10 to 11 feet. So not too many animals would try to attempt to predate on them. But yeah, that's a really good question.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jeanette. All right, let's go back to Ms. Peltzer's class. See if you guys have a question for us. Just demute your mic and you're good to go. All right. Yeah.
How many teeth do they have?
Ooh.
How many teeth do they have? I love the questions, guys. So for the sawfish, they can have anywhere between 24 to 32 teeth lined up on their rostrum. That actually varies between the species. If you're talking about the teeth that's inside the sawfish's mouth, or like say, for example, a shark's mouth, that's over 100 different teeth. So sharks have this really cool thing. It's just when they lose one tooth, another one kind of pops in to replace it. They have rows and rows and rows of teeth lined up in their back. So if you ever get a chance, I'd definitely say check it out. Even on Google, just check out a picture of the jaws. So I can't tell you how many teeth they exactly have, but in a lifetime, they can lose over like 1,000 teeth. So again, awesome question.
Yeah, great, guys. All right, Mr. Bree's class, we'll come back to you guys, and then we'll take a few from YouTube as we've got a whole bunch pouring in. So, Mr. Bree, go for it.
All right, we're going to try if we can unmute one of, so Melody, go ahead. She's right here.
Hi, Melody. So we can see her, but we can't hear anything from where we are.
All right, let's see if one of them actually comes to eat, if you guys want to see.
So we can't hear any questions,
Okay.
Mr.
Okay,
No.
sorry. The question is, Arunia, can you please mute yourself? Arunia? Arunia, I need you to mute yourself.
Great view of the sawfish while we're waiting for this question.
Arunia, mute yourself. Okay, sorry. The question is it bad to hand feed the fish while they're in the aquarium in case they get released back to the wild, or are they staying in the aquarium?
Great question.
Oh, that's a really good question. So most of the animals that enter the aquarium system will pretty much be here for the rest of their lives. Once they do get used to this environment, it's hard for them to go back in the wild. There are rehabilitation centers that actually help them if you're going to release the animals back in the wild. But in an aquarium setting, the way we actually pamper most of the animals, they're too used to it. That's not a bad thing. They're well pampered. They'll be well cared for the rest of their lives. It's just they won't too well in the wild. But centers that actually rehab the animals, they do their best behavior, the best in their ability to make sure that they're feeding and healthy. So that way they can get back into the wild to do their own thing.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeanette. All right, let's go to Miss Gary's class. They're joining us in Minnesota. I'm just going to try and find their question. There's so many questions pouring in. Do they ever get aggressive with each other when it's feeding time, Jeanette? Any aggressiveness of the sawfish?
No, so the sawfish are quite timid animals actually. So like even when the divers are in the water, they try to avoid us as much as they can. Again, we're not part of their natural environment, so to us, we're just some large animal in their home. So when we're in the water, we do our best to be respectful for them for sure, especially when they're eating as well too. When they're eating, a lot of the animals are very polite. Like the sharks, you'll see them kind of come by the back wall, but they know it's not their feeding time, so most of them will try to avoid this area. Obviously, Dave will take the food out when he has a chance. So we make sure that they're all fed on a solid routine schedule just to make sure that everyone's eating healthy and well, and that helps avoid aggression.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to leave it up with the video so that people can check this out as it's coming in. Miss Wilbeck's class in Toronto, they want to know, what temperature of the water do they belong in? Do they like being in?
What temperature do the water do they belong in? What temperature of the water do they belong in?
Oh, so this water's like 74 to 76.
So,
Closer to 74 to 75.
so I just asked Dave because I actually do not know the answer to that question, but this water right here is close to 74 to 76 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, 74 to 75.
Yeah, so anywhere between 74 to 76. That's their kind of ideal areas. Again, these animals are found close to the equator, so in warm tropical areas. So the Indo-Pacific waters of like Northern Australia and Indonesia. So I'd say warm water, exact number, 74 to 76 degrees.
It's a little bit cool to accommodate the sand tigers. Obviously, they could stand it a bit lower. Because even like 74 Fahrenheit, when you're diving, it's pretty nippy. It's a little cold.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Quick note for any teachers that are sharing out the StreamYard link, please don't, because it brings kids into the camera spots, and we don't want that. So just keep them on YouTube if you could. We will take some more YouTube questions in just a second, and for our live teachers, we'll come back for another round in a minute. So Miss Peltzer and Miss DeReese class, get ready for more questions. Miss Guthrow's class, I'm sorry that they had a little bit of tech difficulty, so they're on YouTube right now. They wanted to know, when was your first sawfish born in the aquarium? Have you had any sawfish born in the aquarium, Jeanette?
One of the first sawfish born in the aquarium. So when it comes to reproduction, sawfish are actually quite slow reproducers. They take about 10 years to reach maturity. And then once they mature, they only breed about every 2 years. So these particular sawfish we have in the aquarium were actually wild caught, I believe, and they're actually from Australia. So they've been in the aquarium setting for roughly 18 years, I want to say.
Yeah, they've been part of, not this building, but part of Ripley.
Yeah, they haven't been in this building particularly, but in Ripley's collection for about 18 years. And they're about maybe 5 to 10 years old when they actually were caught. It's hard to guess their age, so they actually won't born any here in the aquarium. I don't believe that any aquarium worldwide they've had any successful breeding sessions, just because these animals are quite hard to have.
Fantastic. Awesome. So, quick, yeah, I'm glad we got a chance to talk about breeding animals because it's something that's really important. And there are a lot of fish that are born at the aquarium. So we've talked about this in some of our shark sessions in the past. We've got small sharks, we've got fish, seahorses, a lot of which there's lots of births at the aquarium. For larger animals, it's quite difficult to get them to breed. And good question, guys. Thanks so much. Quick last note before we dive back in with our live groups. For all the students that are on YouTube and are misbehaving, your teachers are literally in the YouTube chat with you, so they all know it's you. So please do avoid that. We'd love to hear your questions, but just be good digital citizens, guys. It's really easy to do, much harder to do what you're doing. So with that said, I'm going to go back to Ms. Peltzer's class. If you guys have a question for us, come on in. Just demute your mic and you're good to go.
Do they have rows of teeth?
Ooh, they have rows of teeth, Jeanette.
Yes, they do. That's an awesome question. So just like stingrays and sharks, sawfish do have rows of teeth. They have rows of teeth. I believe that the teeth are too small, so you wouldn't be able to find them. We do find lots of shark teeth in this tank. Divers, when they go in to scrub and clean, they do end up finding teeth. Yeah, so the sharks have sharp and pointy teeth, but for the sawfish, it's more like razor blade, like flat teeth, so it's a little bit more difficult to find.
Okay, fantastic, guys. Great imagery from inside the tank, too. So I'm just going to leave it on the awesome view right now while I bring up a question from Miss Hussey's class in Kelowna. So they want to know if the sawfish are on the endangered list, Jeanette.
Yes, they are. So all 5 species are either endangered or critically endangered, and the green sawfish is actually critically endangered. So again, October 17th is International Sawfish Day. So we got to do our best to raise awareness about these animals and the threats they face. That way we can find different ways and all these amazing ways to protect them, because obviously they're really cool animals, they're very important, and we want to do our best to protect them.
Fantastic. All right, Miss DeBree's class, if you guys have another question for us, come on back in and share away. Then we'll take a few more from YouTube and wrap up from there.
We have a few questions. One is, how large is the sawfish? Can their growing teeth grow back? And what's the other question? Sorry.
Take your time.
Oh, how old is it?
So how old, how big, and do their teeth grow back, Jeanette?
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so how old? So like I said, these guys have been in the Ripley system for about 18 years now. And when they were caught, we estimate they're anywhere between 5 to 10. So we could roughly say they are in their late 20s, like mid to late 20s. It's hard to say an exact guess because, again, they were caught from the wild. And with these animals, it's really hard to tell their age, especially when they are still alive. We go for a good guess by size. And then since we've had them for about 18 years in captivity, that's why we get that guess of between the mid-20s. How big? So the green sawfish is actually the biggest of the 5 species. A fully grown one can grow about to 23 feet long. The female is about, I think, 14 to 15 feet. And then the male is about 11 feet long. Now, teeth, yes. So if they have their teeth in their mouth, those rows of teeth can grow back. Like I said, it's a row. So if one breaks, they kind of roll over and take the new spot. Another thing that can happen is, our male's coming up. Let's see if we can get him to grab a bite real quick. Let's see if he's willing. He's thinking about it. Ooh, he's so close. So yeah, you can see their mouth underneath. You can see their gills. That's their similar quality and traits to the stingrays. Oh, he's opening his mouth. He's getting a little taste test. Oh. Let's see. Oh, there he go. He grabbed it. All right, so we can say we successfully got us to see a sawfish eat. That's amazing, guys. Going back to that question, yeah, if they break their teeth inside their mouth, they can replace them. These teeth that are found along the rostrum, they can regrow back too. As long as it's not broken at the base, they're actually fully able to replenish them.
That was awesome. How cool was that? Thanks, guys. Great footage. All right, we're going to wrap up with just a few quick questions. So, Miss Wilbeck's class, what is their lifespan in the wild versus their lifespan in the aquarium, guys?
So what is the lifespan in the wild versus in the aquarium? For that question, I actually might have to pass on to Dave. Dave, what is their lifespan in the aquarium versus in the wild?
I mean, they have the potential to live pretty close to what they would be in the wild. The problem with green sawfish in particular, relative to even other sawfish, is a lot of their life history traits aren't super well understood. So the information we use for them is actually generally extrapolated from what we know about other species. But certainly living in excess of 35 years should be possible. Can they get that old in an aquarium? As long as you take care of them. So obviously there are certain challenges with keeping aquatic animals. We have to control their entire environment, we control their diet. We have to make sure they have safe access to food and stuff like that. So as long as you do diligence, sorry, she's coming up.
No problem. So like Dave said, if you didn't hear him too properly, so it's very hard to guess. We don't know too much about these animals. We can say that they can live anywhere between 35 to 50 years. I believe the green sawfish is actually one of the longest lived of the species. Like Dave said, as long as they're healthy, they're eating, and we do our best to make sure that they're doing okay, we can obviously try to push them to 35. There's a lot of external factors that take place, but I'd say anywhere between 35 years old is how long they can live for.
Yeah. Fantastic. It's one of our biggest questions we've got on YouTube as well. And one thing I want to note too, and Jeanette, you can speak to this before we wrap up. So we get a lot of questions about animal welfare whenever we're at the aquarium, whenever we're at zoos. Can you speak a little bit to AZA or CAZA certification and what that means and that you guys have it?
Yeah, so we have the AZA certifications for aquarium and zoos. It's like a standard that you have well-being to take care of these animals. So that means like they have a really good environment. We know that they're healthy, they're fed. We have vets who come in like twice a week, 3 times a week to make sure that the animals are healthy. We can do in-house stuff. Like with these animals, especially the sharks and sawfish, a lot of their food is frozen, so they lose a lot of nutrients. So we actually supplement their food with vitamins as well too. So there's a lot of care that goes into taking care of these animals. And having that AZA accreditation is kind of like a stamp of approval. So places that have this, it's like, hey, you're doing a really good job. You're doing really fantastic. You're able to take care of these animals to the best of your abilities or to the best of your capacities.
Fantastic. We always like to highlight that when we can. Ripley's Aquarium of Canada, a fantastic organization, does amazing animal care, and again, cares for many, many thousands of individual animals and hundreds of species. And you can check out way more of that on our YouTube channel if you want to see some of the past sessions that have been really fantastic. Jeanette, is there any last message you'd like to share about the aquarium? If we have kids in Toronto or the general Toronto area, can they come to the aquarium right now?
Yes, the aquarium's actually open at the moment. You're welcome to come in. Our hours are obviously from 10 to 8. You can find me or any of the other educators here. I love to ask us questions. You can see all the cool animals in here. Okay, always come by, guys. Check it out. One of the things I'm always going to say again, International Sawfish Day is October 17th, this Saturday. So make sure you take all of the information you heard today and just spread the word to your friends, your family. We want to make sure we raise awareness to highlight these beautiful animals, and so we can do our best to protect them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys, as always, for a really, really cool session. Amazing that we got some sawfish feeding live on camera, some beautiful imagery throughout the whole broadcast. So I'm going to bring that up one last time. And as you know what we do at the end of every session, I'm going to bring in our classes, Ms. Debris and Ms. Peltzer. If you guys want to join me in saying a big thank you to the aquarium team, go for it. You are all in now. Can do a big wave and goodbye. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys.